Hey everyone, Shashank this side. I hope everybody is doing well and safe at home. As you can see on my screen, today we'll be going to discuss an interesting as well as very important module from Amazon Web Services, which helps architects to build the most secure, high performing, resilient, and performance effective infrastructure possible for any kind of workload or application that you deploy within AWS or on premises by answering some sort of questions based upon the pillars of security, reliability, operational excellence, performance efficiency, and cost optimization, which are the five very important pillars of designing any kind of workload, whether it comes to your any cloud platform or your on-premises data center, the traditional data center basically. So that's where a tool called AWS Well-Architected Framework provided by AWS comes into picture. And if you're starting very fresh, like you don't know how to design stuff in a better way, like with a best practices model within a cloud platform or onto your data center, then try to answer some sort of question across these pillars and we'll be going to have a performance effective infrastructure created for our application. So let's deep dive into the concept of AWS Well Architected Tool or a framework from Amazon Web Services. So let's start by understanding the concept and then we'll be moving to our AWS Management Console for the demo, like how you can define your workload and based upon the questions, how your workload will going to look like. So AWS Well Architected Tool help us to review your workload against current AWS practices. So they're like few predefined parameters that AWS follows as part of the cloud best practices model. Against those parameters, our workloads get reviewed as per the questions and the answers that we provide. Also, it provides us guidance on how to improve our architecture on the cloud platform, plus on the on-premises side as well, because we do have that option too. This tool is based upon AWS architected framework. So as I said, for any kind of application to get onboarded, whether it is cloud platform, whether it is on-premises data center, the pillars are very important. You have to understand what kind of request will come into picture, what kind of operational excellence will be there to define your workload. Do we have the reliability on our infrastructure, or the most important is the security part? Are we securing our infrastructure with the best practices model? If not, we'll be get hacked very quickly. Cost, obviously, while moving from the data center to cloud, or even you're running your operations on premises data center as well, you have to take care of the costing model too. Reason being, if you're not designing your infrastructure in a better way, like a bad design is there, then you'll be going to pay a hell lot of cost for your infrastructure, whether you are in cloud or whether you are in data center. Again, the performance will not be going to be very good for that bad infrastructure design. So that's where the well-architected framework comes into picture, which helps all the architects, all the engineers to get the guidance on the architectural side, how you can design across all these pillars, because these pillars are not only applicable at the cloud platform, also applicable for your on-premises workload. Plus, we are getting consistent governance. That's something very important. Uh, like constant governance is there to audit your environment, plus continuously improving your architectures. So let's say today I have designed an infrastructure and is a better, but there are like some additional inputs required to improve your infrastructure architecture or the workload architecture. Then again, this well architected framework tool will help us to improve, to implement those logics, because this also gives us an improvement plan, like some sort of plan that you can get in terms of the guidance. Hey, this is the way that you should design your workload. So all these benefits and everything we are getting from this well architected tool based upon these five set of pillars. So that's where the architecture happens on the well architected framework. So you have to identify the workload to review. So as I said, You have to give answers to certain questions based upon these pillars. Then AWS Well-Architected Tool will help you or will give you, like, this is a higher risk environment, this is a medium risk environment, or this is the low risk. And one by one you can define your workload, like one by one you can improve your system design, and finally you will be going to get a performance effective resilient infrastructure for your application. So you can share your reports to different management. So for example, obviously in a company we have different sets of management, one for managed services, one for engineering. The workload can be defined for each set of team, right? And if I want to share that with the higher management, I can share the report. Those are the things available with this particular framework. So that's how the concept look like, guys. I hope this clears in terms of how it will be going to work in background. And now it's time for us to go to our AWS management console, just to showcase you how you can define your workload. Okay, I'm into my AWS management console. I'm into well-architected tool. Again, if you go to services, the well-architected tool is present inside the management and governance section. As you can see, it's here, well-architected tool. If you click this, you will be get navigated to this particular section. Okay. Now, again, it's learn, measure, build using the architectural best practices. So, as I said, they're like predefined set of standard that AWS follows, and based upon your answers, it will match up those standard. Once that is done, it will give you the result. Now, if I want to share you something on the results side, I already have one web app workload running. As you can see, I have answered 35 questions out of 64, out of which 31 is at high risk, 3 is at medium risk. Okay, but for this particular video, let's create a new one so that you guys can understand what kind of questions that you will be going to get. Again, the pricing wise, any usage, it's a free service. There is no charge for this particular model, so you can try at your account as well. So let's click on define workload, right? You have to give a name. So for example, I'll give this name as, let's go tech in cloudy way workload. Okay, the same you can give in the description or depend upon what kind of description you want to give. Reviewer, obviously, as of now it's my account, I am the owner of this account, I'll be going to review this. Environment, the environment in which you will be going to run this workload. So obviously it's always advisable to have something on the pre-prod side first. Try to correlate all your infrastructure workload design and everything on the pre-prod side. Try to remove or sort out all the issues at the pre-prod environment and then move to the production. Region, which region you want to run this workload, you can select multiple regions. So I'm going with Virginia. Non-AWS region, which is basically your on-premises or other cloud vendors. So you can give that as well. We have that provision. Specify up to 5 unique region, you can do that, and each region name with can be most of 25 characters. These are the limitations. Account ID, if you're trying to have this across your accounts, if you want to do that, you have to give the account IDs over here. If you have any architectural design link, you can put the URL like FTP, or if you have any website hosted for that, you can do that. Industry type, you can select, these are the industry type. You can, if you are not finding your industry type over here, which I guess most of the major industry has been listed, you can click or select other. For me, it's basically in the education industry. Then here you can see like higher ed research, like a subtype over here. So for me, it's technology and tools, and you can give the tag. Click next. Now here we have lenses. We have 4 kind of lenses. By default, the well-architected framework is selected. That's where the set of standard that AWS has its own, that will, so whatever answer that you will be going to provide, it will match up with those set of standards, somewhere around 64 questions that you have to answer, and then you will be able to see the result. We have something called FTR lens. Server, if you're running serverless application background, you can select the server lens application as well. Then we have SaaS lens. Then if you are having any software as service application, you can do that as well. For me, I'm just going with the default one. I don't have any serverless application running in my account. I don't have any FTR or SaaS application. It's just a blank practical demo account for me. So let's define a workload. This will take few seconds to come up. Okay, now my workload has been defined. As you can see, 52 questions that I have to answer. The risks are high risk and the medium risk. We have workload nodes that we can define. Lenses, we have selected only one. I can select the other, and this is the pillar priority. So the priority wise is security is the first one, reliability, operational excellence, performance efficiency, cost optimization. We'll be going to have a look on the documentation as well for all these pillars, but let's say if you want to shuffle these pillars, you can click on edit, and you can shuffle, like if you want to have a reliability on the top, you can do that. I prefer to have security. Obviously that's something very important for me for my workload. Then again, depend upon your requirement, you can move from top to bottom into the middle as per your requirement. Okay, now we have something called milestone. So once we start reviewing this particular environment, then we can save the result as milestone. We have properties, whatever we have defined, all the values like industry type, industry, pre-production, region, and everything. These are the things that we have done. Improvement plan, we haven't done that yet. So first let's go ahead, and you can share this as well with different accounts within AWS. So let's go ahead and start reviewing. Until unless you will not answer each and every question, it will ask you to do a continue reviewing. Okay, so let's do that. Now here are something that you will be going to answer a lot of questions, 52 sets of questions. Based upon that, you will get to know what kind of workload that you have to define. Okay, so first is operational excellence. Basically, how do you determine what your priorities are? So you have to read out all these questions in a better way, and based upon that, you have to answer your question, or you have to select your answers basically. Or if this question doesn't apply to you, you can just do this, and you can select out of scope. Again, we are not going to do all 52 questions, because I don't want you to see me answering all the questions one by one. As you can see, operational excellence have 11, somewhere around all 5 is somewhere around 11, some 10. So based upon that, we'll be going to answer our questions. Okay, let's do that. So just to show you how the result will be going to look like, so let's select few of the options. Evaluate the external customer need, evaluate the governance requirement, compliance requirement, the threat landscape, trade-offs. I am not sure what this is, but you can read the information over here. Okay, each and everything is there. So trade-off is basically the evaluate the impact of the trade-off between competing interest or alternative approaches. Okay, got it. Manage benefits and risks, and you can see each options have an info section which you can read and then answer. So if you don't know, just like me, I was not aware of the trade-offs, so that's why I haven't selected that. And in the info section I checked, it's an alternative approach. If nothing applies to this question, either you directly skip that question or you can select none of these. Now another part over here is, since you have selected all these options, then you can define like a sub definition of these, like how you want to evaluate, what is the reason for selecting this: out of scope, business priorities, architectural constraints, or other. So for me, it's a business priority to evaluate the external customers, or the architectural constraint, I would say business priority for me. Internal, so let's see what we have selected. We have selected, first one is done, then governance, You don't need to select this. Governance is something my architectural constant plus my business requirement as well. Okay. Then compliance, again, business priority or architectural constraints and all those stuff, right? So again, I'm not going to do everything over here, and you can define the notes as well, the improvement and everything. We'll do that later. Click next. Let's see the other question. This is again, how do you structure your organization to support your business outcomes? Again, let's select few of them because I just want to show you the result. Okay, and I'm not going to do anything over here. Click next. How does your organization culture supports your business? Executive sponsorship, then escalation is encouraged, and all those stuff. Okay, click next. This is the fourth one that we'll be going to answer. How do you design your workload so that you can understand state? Okay, let's select this. Now, I'm going to do save and exit, and let's see the result, because it will take almost more than an hour for me to understand all the questions first, and based upon that I have to answers, right? Now here you can see I have answered 4 questions. Out of that, 3 are at high risk. Why? So let's see. Because we are doing at operational excellence, you can click on the high risk section or whatever we are getting the numbers, and here is like high risk uh, recommendations as well. So that's where, so again, I'll go back to the workload, and again you can see, until unless you don't answer all the questions, it will ask you to review again and again, right? So there are like 3 high risk. I'm just clicking in the lenses section. I'm just clicking this number 3, and here you can see the overview. Come on, workload. The improvement plan, that's what I was talking about. It will ask you to give the responses, and based upon the recommendation, the prerequisites, that what the best practices is all about within AWS, you can read like what exactly the evaluate internal customer needs are all about, or what is evaluate trade-offs. These are required, right? The same with the recommendation on how you can structure your organization. So based upon the recommendation of the improvement items, you have to check resource have identified owners, then mechanism. So again, if you click any of this, it will take you to the documentation part. It will ask you to go through all the definitions, documentation and everything, and based upon that, once you know like what this parameter is all about, you can go ahead and update your parameter within the workload section, and that risk will drill down to 2, 3, 1, and finally it goes to 0. Okay, so let's go to workload again. In the milestones section, so what milestones are all about, it's basically, this is an initial milestone, right? We are reviewing it again, right? So if I go ahead and do a save milestone, I will do initial review. So within my initial review, I got to know like I have 3 high risk items to take a look and resolve. Okay, now let's again go to the high risk section, and we'll be going to update our workload so that you can understand how you can define all these stuff. And with the second milestone will be like updated better monitoring or something like that, the updated framework. We have updated all those things on our workload, and based upon that we'll be going to design. Okay, so again let's click on this. So we'll be going to update our, how do you determine the priorities, recommended action, these two has to be selected. So for that, I have to go to the workload, continue reviewing, click on continue reviewing. Let's go to the first one. Question. Yeah. Evaluate the trade-offs. Internal customer need. Click save and exit again. Let's see. Now, as you can see, they're high risk, because now I understand those two are the important factors for me as part of the best practices to define in my workload. And based upon all these factors, guys, you will get a better infrastructure for your application. Okay. Now, since I know, like, I have updated my workload architecture in background, so what I can do, I can create another milestone where it says customer satisfaction completed. Click save. Now, if you go to the milestones section, the first one was the initial review. I know I have 3 high risk. I resolved one high risk section. So that's why the next part, just to track what is happening in the background, or what an engineer is doing in background, or an architect is doing in background, and you can show this to your management. Hey, we are not sitting idle, we are doing our stuff, we are trying to define all the workload in a better and a secure way, and this is the way that you can track, right? You can also generate a report from here, you can share this with your management and other people, right? Or you can share with the different accounts, like let's say you are owning 2 accounts, staging and production. You are doing on staging account, hey, this is my workload, and now you want to share with the management that takes care, or they are working on a different account things, like within IT, right? IT creates a lot of different accounts, but they are owning the master branch. So you can share the report with the security team, the cyber security team. Hey, this is now a well architected framework that we have designed for our workloads. So let's track all these factors as part of the milestone, right? So that's how the architectural part looks like. That's how the workload designing parts look like. And you can do a lot of different stuff. Again, as I said, you have to answer 52 questions, or whatever the number of questions that you will be going to present it with as part of the best practices. Based upon that, define your workload, and you'll be going to have a happy world for your application workload. Now, coming back to our presentation, and that's how the practical demo looks like, guys. I have used this tool a lot in last few years, and I got to know a lot of things on the architectural side. I have gained a lot of knowledge with this particular tool as well. I'm not saying you don't know stuff how to do it, but again, if you're getting some service free, if you're getting a knowledge where you can explore a lot of different stuff as part of your learning stuff, then I would prefer you to go ahead and explore this particular tool. That will help you for your future as well when you are stepping into a world of architecture. Coming back to our pillars of security, so I just wanted to navigate to an Amazon documentation where you will see all the what exactly operational excellence is all about, where you try to have an ability to support your development, run the workload, to gain a sight into their operation systems and everything, continuously improvement, right? You have to perform, make your operations in a better way so that your workload perform better, right? The best practices needs to be there for businesses and customer needs so that they can support business outcomes. Ops creates and uses procedures to respond their events, validates their effectiveness to support the business, right? The same part is the security. We have the design principle. Obviously, security is something, for me, security, I keep security at number one position while defining the workload, then the operational excellence, and then the certain number of things. And again, the costing factor, I mean, that is something very important for every customers, every organization. If you're paying a lot of cost, there's no need to go or onboard your application. Why should I pay for something which I can reduce a lot of cost? And I have done this with my lot of different clients that I have worked with, save millions of dollars while doing all these R&Ds on services. The same with the security pillar, again, ability to protect your data, systems, assets, and take an advantage on the cloud technologies. You can go with the best practices, then the reliability. Again, every customer look for the reliability, high availability environment, how reliable your system is, how you can automatically recover your system if it is down. Okay. Performance efficiency, obviously if I'm onboarding any application to my cloud platform or data center, I will look for better performance. I don't want my application to open within 5 minutes. Instead, I want my application to open within few milliseconds, right? That's how the world is happening and growing right nowadays. Cost optimization, another important factor. As I said, the financial part always comes into picture, always related to all these other factors once you onboard any application anywhere. So as you can see, all these factors are interrelated. Without one factor, if you leave one of the factor, then you will not be able to define or onboard your infrastructure in a better performant, highly performant way. So that's how the AWS Well-Architected Tool looks like. So just play it around into your account, just try to showcase this particular service to your management, try to convince them, because we have a lot of good stuff to design your infrastructure, to design your application workload within AWS, within other different vendors as well, because we have to, and these 5 factors, these 5 pillars are applicable across the environments. So yeah, just play it around, place out a comment in comment section if you're facing an issue. I'm there to help you. I'll try to reply as soon as possible once I see the comment. Have a nice day. Bye bye.